Today I want to talk about aliens. Why aliens? Because they're cool. It's an archetype that existed since the GX era, which makes it older than the average Yu-Gi-Oh player, and keeps getting support to this very day, but never achieved much competitively. At least in the TCG, because in Duel Links, believe it or not, this archetype was the best deck for a short while. It's also one of the cheapest best decks that ever existed, and this alone is a fact to be commended in a game where you have to get several copies of several different URs in order to even be able to compete, because this is a hellhole and I hate this and I'm stuck here forever! Don't believe me? Well, first of all, ouch, I thought we were friends, I thought I had acquired this trust. And second, you're wrong and I'm right, and I'll show you why. This is the history of when Aliens was tier 1. But before we get started, make sure to like this video and comment what are your fondest memories of the Aliens deck or the metagame around Aliens. And also, if you want to support me, the link to my coffee is in the description. Before I get to talk about alien cards in specific, I have to talk about the unique mechanics, A counters. What do A counters do? Nothing. At least on their own. You see, because of how Yu-Gi-Oh works, A counters didn't do anything so as long as you didn't control an alien monster. But once you did, it would reduce the attack of a monster battling an alien by 300 for each A counter it had. This effect was also cumulative, meaning it reduced stats even further if you controlled more alien monsters. Alright, I feel like I kinda lost you there, so let me give you an example. Say your opponent has a Blue Eyes White Dragon with 3000 attack, that's the default attack that it has. It has 2 A counters on it, so it still has 3000, because the A counters don't do anything. But then if you control one alien monster, it's gonna lose 300 attack per A counter on it when it battles, so 600 attack total. But if you control 2 alien monsters, it will lose 600 attack per A counter on it, so 1200 attack total. And you're probably like, whoa, that's a lot of attack reduction, and now you're getting it. Now let's talk about aliens. Aliens first came to Duel Links in the Abyss Encounter main box, which was a banger at the time. On top of aliens, it also gave us Sea Stealth Attack and Archfiends, both of which were pretty dope. But aliens, they were something else. They only had one archetypal SR and no archetypal URs, making it super cheap to build. Everything else you needed was a rare or a common. It was basically the sous ship of its era, except it was actually good. Alien Warrior was the deck's most common beater. It had a respectable 1800 attack and gave 2 hate counters to monsters that destroyed it by battle. It was just a simple beater guy. People played 3 copies of it back then. Alien Telepath could remove A counters to pop back row, which is a terrible effect, except in Duel Links, the one place where people played battle traps and nothing else, and Sergeant Electro was meta for a very long time. At 1600 attack it was pretty decent. It was like a weird little filler, kinda neat. It was also played at 3. Alien Hypno is a Gemini, and garbage by default. This one saw 0 play. Alien Kid's an interesting case. It didn't see a lot of play in the deck's prime in early 2018, but as the meta evolved to include more and more decks focused on special summoning, people started giving it some more consideration. It was usually played at around 2 copies starting from April/May 2018, with people cutting 1 Telepath and 1 Warrior to make room for it. Alien Shock Trooper looks cool, but it's a normal monster with no effects, not even the A counter reduction, so it's a 0 play as well. Alien Hunter seems pretty good, right? It's able to attack twice, but it doesn't have the A counter effect, which means that it doesn't reduce the attack of monsters that it battles, so it's pretty useless on its own. This one didn't see play either. Alien Grey is pretty funny. It's a flip monster, which makes it really slow, even for Duel Links, but it did plus you when it got destroyed by battle, and it does give a hate counter. It did see a little bit of play at 1 copy, but then it was deemed too slow for the deck and people started cutting it entirely. Alien Overload is the deck's big bad boss monster. It was incredibly easy to summon, it distributed A counters like nobody's business, and it could easily beat over tougher boss monster despite, rather low stats. Depending on the skill that you were running, and I'm gonna talk more about that later, you'd either be running 1 or 2 copies. I'm not gonna waste your time, and more importantly mine, talking about the other alien monsters. Like, at least Hypno had an interesting enough payoff that you'd maybe consider giving it a chance, but that's it. Like, what do you want me to say about Alien Skull? What am I supposed to say about Flying Saucer Musuki? Muski? Who cares? As far as non-archetypal monsters go, there weren't many. Some lists play 1 copy of Evil Dragon Ananta as a secondary boss monster because it could grow big and pop cards, but it wasn't the greatest though. Aliens didn't have much back row, but they did have one of the most powerful quick play spells of this era, a cell recombination device. This quick play allowed you to easily put A counters, usually 4 on the target of your choice, on top of foolishing an alien that you could revive later with Powerful Rebirth, which was a card that a lot of people played. But that's not all, see, it also had a really cool graveyard effect where you could banish it to search any alien you wanted. You couldn't use both effects in the same turn, but the card was still so good that you'd always play it at 3. Mysterious Triangle is the SR that I was talking about earlier, and it didn't see that much play at first, but it gained popularity when more annoying boss monsters were released and other staples got hit. 2 copies when they were played were usually more than enough. And last but not least, Brainwashing Beam was an incredibly funny card that just took your opponent's monster. It worked great with Recombination Device since you'd be able to steal an opponent's monster on their turn and keep it for a while, often interrupting their combo or saving yourself from lethal. 2 copies were good. The other alien back row cards weren't the greatest, but the deck did play a couple of staples. Enemy Controller, of course, was the best card of its time. Powerful Rebirth, as mentioned before, worked great with Recombination Device, and Wall of Disruption combined with A counters meant your opponent was likely attacking you with a monster about as strong as an Ojama. As far as skills were concerned, back in early 2018, you basically had 2 choices, Balance or Restart. Balance was initially favored since it gave you above 50% chance of opening Recombination Device, but then people realized that Restart was just better for builds that wanted to play 2 Overlords. Here's what typical alien decks at the time looked like. It's pretty simple, right? No extra deck, no 5-minute combos, just aliens living in the moment. Aliens thrived in early 2018 following Abyss Encounter's release, and it quickly became the clear best deck alongside Red Ice Zombie. It was the most played deck of MCS6 on March 4th and even won the whole thing. Unfortunately, by MCS 7 on April 8, 2018, just a month later it had fallen pretty hard. Why is that? Well, it turns out that aliens have a really bad matchup against Sylvans, which was the new best deck in the room, and also a really bad matchup against Gears, which was another deck that people played. Its hero matchup was pretty good, but when Amazonas rolled around in May 2018, let's just say it was a bad time to be a combat-oriented deck. Despite everything, it was popular enough to keep seeing tournament play, especially after Sylvans got nerfed all the way up to June, after which Fur Hires kicked them out of the meta for good. It certainly didn't help that Restart got nerfed to the ground in June as well, forcing aliens to default to balance, which also got nerfed but not in a way that impeded aliens. But the balance builds could only play 1 overload to avoid bricking, and that wasn't good enough to compete with the new top decks. Despite vanishing from the tier list, aliens were still popular enough to keep seeing ladder play for months to come. Here's a video of me playing them in December 2018. I'm losing to Arrow Mages in this one. Aliens eventually got new support in Cybernetic Rebellion in June 2019, including the archetypal tuner Ammonite, a synchro boss in Golga, and the extender Alien Dog, but that wasn't enough to square off against 6 Samurai of all things. Then Alistair came out, and people realized that Telepath was a fire that you could use this material for Purgatrio. Wow, that's depressing. Alien Psychic was also released in Antinomic Theory, so clearly the deck became tier 0. There's still a bunch of cards Alien could get that could help them get back in the meta though. Alien Stealth Buster, that'd be pretty neat. It's a delayed removal with Combination Device, or even a card like Snake Rain. Shock Trooper M-Frame would be Okay to set up Overlord, but the obvious best monster that I could get would be Cosmic Slicer Zero, which is a floodgate that turns recombination device into a disabling device. Get it? Combined with Planet Pollutant Virus, which is also not in Duel Links at the moment, it could potentially turn off your opponent's game plan for several turns, which is usually just enough to win. Back when Striker's expansion was initially announced and the Ogdoatic scale was leaked, I started coping about, alien support coming to the game. That didn't happen. So I'm a bit miffed about that. Regardless whether it gets support or not, the deck will forever be in my heart as one of the coolest and cheapest top tier contenders to ever exist. Thank you for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. This one was a bit shorter than usual, and I tried to adopt a more carefree tone. That's something I feel more comfortable with, because I didn't like the way the Cyber Angel video ended up being. I hope you enjoyed this one more. If you did, let me know, I really appreciate that. And also comment some other deck that you'd like me to talk about next. I already have a couple of suggestions, but more suggestions always helps. Thank you guys and gals and non-binary pals once again for watching. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all next time.